He was worth almost $1 billion. His own family thought he sold coffee mugs online. Today, that lie was going to end. The boardroom had been buzzing for 2 hours. Big glass table. Shiny screens. Men and women in suits nodding like puppets. And standing at the front of it all, soaking up every second, was Blake Hayes. Blake loved rooms like this. He loved the way people looked at him when he talked about money. As you can see, Blake said, pointing at the screen behind him, our numbers this quarter are amazing. Revenue is up 23%. Our new deal with a factory in Asia alone will save us $12 million a year. Everyone clapped politely. At the head of the table sat Robert Hayes, Blake's father and the founder of Hayes Industries. His chest puffed up with pride. Excellent work, son, Robert said. This is the kind of thinking that will carry this company into the future. Blake's mother, Diane, sat beside her husband, glowing. We are so lucky to have Blake leading this company, she said. Such vision. Such talent. Down at the very end of the table sat a quiet young man named Quinn Hayes. He was Blake's younger brother. Quinn had a seat at this table too, but it came with a catch. No vote. No say. No power. Just a chair reserved for the family observer. His father had created that seat 5 years ago, right after Quinn turned down a real job at the company. Quinn sipped his water and said nothing. He always said nothing here. Nobody wanted to hear from him anyway. Blake clicked to the next slide. A new deal was on it, buying out a smaller company called Stellar Components. They're struggling with cash, Blake explained. Undervalued. Perfect for us to take over. With our money and our management, we could fix them up in 18 months. The company's finance officer, a sharp man named David Lynn, raised his hand. What's the total cost? $47 million up front, Blake said smoothly. Plus $15 million more to fix them up. Nothing we can't handle, especially with our silent investor still backing us. For one tiny second, a few heads turned toward Quinn. Then they looked away just as fast. The silent investor. That was the story everyone at this table believed. Nobody was supposed to know the truth, that for 5 years, Quinn had been quietly pouring millions of dollars into his family's company. Money from his own business. Money nobody in his family respected. Nobody knew, except his father, who had begged Quinn for help 5 years ago after some bad decisions almost destroyed the company. And except Blake, who had figured it out 2 years ago and promised to keep it secret. The meeting rolled on. Blake talked about growth, about markets, about beating the competition. He was good at this. He had his father's charm and his grandfather's sharp edge. The only thing Blake didn't have was the money. That part was all Quinn. Any questions? Blake asked, looking around the room like a king surveying his kingdom. A board member named Thomas Reed spoke up. I'm a little worried about our funding. We've grown fast. Are we sure about our money sources? Robert jumped in quickly. Our silent investor has always been reliable. But investors can pull out, Thomas pressed. What happens if they walk away? Blake laughed, that easy, careless laugh Quinn had heard his whole life. That's not happening, Thomas. Our investor has $94 million tied up in this company. Nobody walks away from that kind of money. The meeting ended half an hour later. As Quinn packed up his things, Blake strolled over, tie loosened, still glowing from his big presentation. Hey, Q, Blake said, using the nickname that always made Quinn feel small. Good of you to actually show up. I know these meetings must be boring for you. They're informative, Quinn said calmly. Right. Informative. Blake leaned against the table. So how's the little online shop doing? Still selling those handmade candles or whatever it is? It's doing fine. I'm sure it is. Very cute. Blake smirked. Mom loves telling her friends about it. My son, the small business owner. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Look, it's a little embarrassing, though. People ask what you do, and I have to say, while I'm running a $200 million company, you're basically running an online craft stand. It's more than that. Sure. Blake straightened his jacket. I'm not trying to be mean. I just think you should be realistic. You'll never be a real businessman doing what you're doing. No scale. No vision. No impact. Robert walked up and clapped Blake on the back. Fantastic presentation, son. The board loved it. Thanks, Dad. Robert glanced at Quinn almost like an afterthought. Quinn. Thank you for coming today. Then, you should come for dinner this weekend. Your mother would love to see you. He paused. Maybe we can talk about ongoing arrangements. Ongoing arrangements. That meant one thing, more money. I'll check my schedule, Quinn said. After they left, Quinn stood alone in the empty boardroom, staring at the growth chart still glowing on the screen. Line after line, rising higher every quarter. All of it built on money from a business his own family mocked. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Lovely to see you today, dear. Blake mentioned you're still doing your little craft business. Have you thought about getting a real job? I worry about your future. Quinn turned off his phone and walked out. Here's the truth nobody in that boardroom knew. Quinn's little online shop was actually called Lumina Global, a company he built from nothing, 8 years ago, with his own 2 hands. It started as a small website connecting handmade goods to buyers. But it grew. And grew. Now it connected small factories and workers in poor countries directly to shoppers all over the world, cutting out the middlemen and putting more money in the hands of the people who actually made the products. 2 years ago, Lumina Global went public. Not the biggest launch in the world, but a very successful one. Quinn owned 60% of the company. That 60% was worth about $340 million. His quarterly payout alone was bigger than Blake's entire yearly salary and bonus combined. But you'd never know it by looking at Quinn. He lived in a simple apartment. Drove a normal car. Wore plain clothes. He put almost everything back into his business, or into his family's company, which he used to believe was a good investment. He was starting to think differently now. Quinn's office was downtown, in a building much smaller and much less flashy than Hayes Industries. But it worked just fine for him. His assistant, Nora, greeted him the second he walked in. How was the board meeting? Educational, Quinn said. Nora smiled. She was one of the very few people who knew the whole truth about Quinn's empire. Your 3 o'clock is here. Sarah Kim, from the investment firm. The afternoon flew by in meeting after meeting. Sarah wanted to talk about funding a green factory project in Vietnam. A warehouse manager needed sign-off on a new building. His tech team wanted to review next year's plans. Around 6 o'clock, Nora knocked on his door. Your father's on the phone. Quinn picked up. Hi, Dad. Quinn. His father's voice had that careful sound he used when he wanted something. Could we move dinner to Friday? I'd like to talk about something important. What's this about? A pause. The Stellar Components deal. We need to move fast, which means we need the money faster too. I wanted to talk about increasing the investment. You want more money? I want to talk about an opportunity. Blake's done incredible work setting this up. It's exactly the kind of move that secures our future. But it needs capital, and our silent investor relationship has been so good for us. I'll think about it. Quinn, I need an answer by Friday. This deal won't wait. After he hung up, Quinn sat quietly, staring at his computer. Lumina Global's stock had jumped 3% that day. News sites were already buzzing about the company's new deal with artisan workers in East Africa. Lumina Global expands. E-commerce giant changes the game. His little online shop was making headlines. Meanwhile, Hayes Industries wanted another $15 million for a deal Blake would take full credit for, that his father would praise Blake for, and that his mother would brag about at every dinner party. Quinn opened a private messaging app and typed to his investment manager, Victor Cole. Need to talk about the Hayes Industries position. Call me tomorrow. Friday evening, Quinn pulled into his parents' driveway. The big house he grew up in, worth maybe $2 million now. Impressive to most people. To Quinn, it was barely a rounding error compared to what he actually owned. Blake's sports car was already parked outside. Of course he's here, Quinn thought. This isn't dinner. This is an ambush. His mother opened the door and hugged him tightly, the kind of hug she saved just for the son she worried about. Quinn, you look so thin. Are you eating enough? I'm fine, Mom. Come in, come in. Blake and your father are in the study. She lowered her voice like she was sharing a secret. Your father mentioned you might be helping with a new business deal. That's wonderful, dear. I'm so glad you found a way to help the family, even if you couldn't work here full time. Inside the study, Blake and Robert stood over papers spread across the desk. Both looked up. Quinn caught the quick, secret glance they gave each other. Quinn, his father said warmly. Scotch? No thanks. Blake held up a folder. We put together a full proposal for the Stellar Components deal. I think you'll like the numbers. I'm sure they're very hopeful. They're realistic, Blake said, his tone sharpening. I don't deal in fantasy, unlike some people's business models. Robert shot Blake a warning look. What Blake means is we've been careful with our numbers. For the next hour, they walked Quinn through the whole plan. It was well done. Thorough. Smart, even. Blake might be arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. So, Robert finally said, we're asking for $15 million more, through the usual investment setup. Silent partnership. No board seat needed. Standard return, just like before. Standard return I've never actually gotten, Quinn said flatly. The agreement says 8% a year. In 5 years, I've received $0. Blake leaned back in his chair. Because we've been putting it back into growth. That helps everyone in the long run. Your position has grown a lot on paper. That's just how equity works, Q. You should understand that, even with your limited business background. My limited business background. Come on, Blake said, smiling like he'd said something funny. You sell handmade stuff online. It's not exactly high finance. I'm not trying to insult you, I'm sure it's fulfilling. But what we're talking about here is real corporate strategy. Buying companies. Fighting for market position. This is a whole different level of business. Is it? Of course it is. You found a little market and you serve it. Good for you. But don't confuse that with building something real. Blake counted on his fingers. Hayes Industries has 340 employees. We operate in 6 states. $200 million a year in sales. Your little shop? What, a couple dozen people? 20 million in sales, maybe? Quinn said nothing. Neither did his father, even though Robert knew the real numbers. Years ago, they had agreed to keep it quiet, to protect the family balance. Looking at Blake's smug face now, Quinn deeply regretted that agreement. So you want 15 million, Quinn said. By when? We need to close the deal in 30 days, his father said. The money needs to be ready in 2 weeks. And if I say no? The room went dead silent. Blake's confidence cracked, just for a second. His father spoke slowly. Quinn, this family has always supported each other. When you started your business, who gave you advice? Who connected you with your first suppliers? You gave me 3 contacts. None of them worked out. The point still stands. Family supports family. And right now, this company needs this money to make a smart move. You have the resources. We're asking you to be part of our success. The success Blake gets all the credit for, Quinn thought bitterly. Blake stood up fast. What is this really about, Quinn? Are you jealous? Is that it? You couldn't handle a real job here, so you went off to run your little hobby business, and now you're mad that I'm the one who's actually successful. I'm not bitter. You sound bitter. You sound like someone who made bad choices and regrets it now. Blake crossed his arms. Look, I get it. It's got to be hard, watching me run this company, knowing you could have been part of it if you weren't too scared to do the real work. But that's on you. You picked the easy road, the safe little shop where you don't have to make hard calls or take real risks. Don't punish the family business because you lack ambition. Quinn stood up slowly. You think I lack ambition? I think you lack the guts for real business, Blake shot back. There's a difference between selling homemade candles and building an actual company. Is there? Quinn pulled out his phone. Dad. Blake. I want to show you something. He opened his banking app and turned the screen around. His father's eyes went wide. Blake froze completely still. That's my personal account balance, Quinn said quietly. One of several. Want to see the others? Blake finally found his voice. That's not possible. It's very possible, Quinn said, when your little online shop goes public 2 years ago at a $480 million value, and grows to almost $900 million since then. He swiped to another screen. These are my quarterly payments. Notice they're bigger than your entire yearly salary, Blake. His father had gone pale as paper. Quinn. I didn't realize. You didn't ask. Neither of you did. You were both too busy looking down on what I built to actually look at it. Quinn pulled up one more document. This is Lumina Global's newest earnings report. We work in 47 countries. Over 800 employees. Last quarter alone, we made $340 million. Blake stared at the phone like it might explode. You own Lumina Global. I built Lumina Global, Quinn said. From nothing. No family name. No company handed to me. No head start like you had. He put his phone away. So when you talk about real business, Blake, understand this. I built something bigger than Hayes Industries. I did it while you were coasting on the family name. And I did it without once calling someone else's work fake. Why didn't you tell us? His father asked, his voice shaking. Because you never asked. Every time I saw you, all we talked about was Hayes Industries, and how I let you down by not joining. It was easier to let you think I ran a little craft shop than deal with all of this. Deal with what? With Blake's ego. With your expectations. With Mom telling her friends her son runs an online shop, secretly relieved that at least Blake turned out successful. Quinn turned toward the door. I came here tonight planning to say yes to the $15 million. The deal actually makes sense, and despite everything, I want this company to do well. He paused at the doorway. But I've changed my mind. Quinn, wait, his father began. I'm not giving you more money, Quinn said. In fact, I'm pulling out my entire investment. Blake's face went from pale to bright red. You can't do that. You have $94 million in this company. I'm aware. And the deal needs that money. We're leveraged for this. If you pull it, we're finished. Then I guess you'll need to find other investors, Quinn said calmly. Maybe pitch them on your vision. Your leadership. Maybe they'll be impressed by your strategy. This will destroy us. Blake's voice cracked with panic. According to the contract, I can withdraw with 90 days' notice, Quinn said. Consider this your notice. His father stood up, hands trembling. Son, please. Let's talk about this like adults. You're upset, and you have every right to be. But don't make a decision in anger that hurts the whole family. Anger? Quinn's voice stayed steady, but something underneath it burned. I've spent 5 years watching you build this company on my money while treating me like a failure. I've sat through board meetings watching Blake present my capital like it was his own genius idea. I've listened to Mom apologize for my life at every family dinner. We didn't know, Blake said. You weren't supposed to know I was rich, Quinn said. You were supposed to treat me with respect no matter what was in my bank account. You were supposed to see me as your brother, not a backup investor. Not a disappointment. He shook his head. But that's not how this family works, is it? Money. Status. Power. That's the only thing that matters here. Everything else is just noise. He walked out. In the hallway, his mother appeared from the kitchen, confused. Quinn, dinner's almost ready. Where are you going? I have to go, Mom. But we haven't even eaten, she stopped, studying his face. What happened? Ask Blake. I'm sure he'll explain everything. Quinn was almost at his car when he heard footsteps pounding across the lawn behind him. Quinn, wait. Just wait. He turned around. In the porch light, Blake looked younger than his 34 years, his sharp, polished confidence completely cracked. You can't do this, Blake said, breathing hard. The company will collapse. Do you understand that? We'll lose everything. The house. The business. Dad's whole reputation. Everything. You should have thought about that before you spent all evening telling me I'm not a real businessman. I didn't mean, Blake stopped, ran a shaking hand through his hair. Look, I was a jerk. I know that. But this is bigger than some stupid comments at dinner. There are 340 employees who lose their jobs if this company goes under. Real people. Families. Mortgages. Whose livelihoods depend on capital you've been taking for granted, Quinn finished quietly. So what, this is revenge? You're going to destroy the whole company because I hurt your feelings? This is a business decision, Quinn said. You said it yourself, I should think like a real businessman. Well, real businessmen don't keep their money in places where they're disrespected. They don't invest in a company run by someone who mocks them the whole time. Please, Blake said, his voice breaking. I'm begging you. Don't do this. 90 days, Blake, Quinn said. That's what the contract says. I suggest you start making calls. He got in his car and drove away. In his mirror, he watched Blake standing frozen in the driveway, phone already pressed to his ear. The next morning, Quinn messaged Victor Cole. Proceed with the withdrawal. 90-day notice, per contract. The reply came fast. Confirmed. This will pull your entire position out of Hayes Industries. Are you sure? Completely sure. Understood. Starting the paperwork. Fair warning, this will likely trigger emergency loan calls on their end. They've been using your investment as collateral. I know. By Monday morning, word had already spread everywhere. Quinn's phone showed 17 missed calls from his father, 9 from Blake, and a stream of panicked texts from his mother. He ignored every single one and went to work. Nora greeted him with raised eyebrows. Your family has called 6 times already this morning. Your dad says it's urgent. I'm sure it is. Should I tell them you'll call back, eventually? At 10 o'clock, Nora knocked again. Quinn, there's a Robert Hayes here to see you. No appointment, but he says it's an emergency. Quinn sighed. Send him in. His father walked in looking like he had aged 5 years over the weekend. His suit was still perfect, but his eyes were hollow and tired. Quinn. Thank you for seeing me. What can I do for you, Dad? Robert sank into the chair across from Quinn's desk. You can save the company. The withdrawal set off our loan agreements. The bank is calling in our loans. The stellar deal is dead. We could go bankrupt. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? His father's voice cracked. Your grandfather built this company from nothing. 50 years of work, building something for this family, and you're going to let it collapse over an argument? It's not just an argument to want respect from your own family. You have my respect. You've always had it. Really? Quinn leaned back. When's the last time you asked about my company? Actually asked, not just made small talk before switching the subject back to Hayes Industries? His father opened his mouth, then closed it again. When's the last time you told Mom what I actually do for a living? Or told Blake to stop calling my company a hobby? Or stood up at a family dinner and said you were proud of both your sons, not just the one running the family business? I didn't realize. You didn't want to realize, Quinn said. It was easier to let everyone believe I was the disappointment. Blake is the golden child, the heir, the brilliant businessman. Quinn is the one who couldn't cut it, who settled for something small and safe. Except none of that was ever true. His father's shoulders sank. You're right. I failed you as a father. I let Blake's ego, and your mother's expectations, and my own pride get in the way of ever seeing what you built. I'm sorry, Quinn. Truly, deeply sorry. He looked up, eyes wet. But please, don't let my failures destroy what your grandfather built. What he built, or what you built on my money. Both. All of it. Hayes Industries is a family legacy, Quinn. It's yours just as much as Blake's. Is it? Because I've never once felt like part of that legacy. I felt like the disappointing son who wasn't good enough to carry the family name. They sat in silence for a long moment. Outside the window, the city moved on, busy and indifferent to their family drama. Finally, his father spoke again. What would it take to change your mind? I don't know if anything would. Please. Name your terms. A board seat. Equity. Public recognition. Whatever you want. I want Blake to apologize. Robert blinked. That's all? No. I want you to tell Mom the truth about what I do. I want this family to stop pretending I run a craft shop. I want to be treated as an equal, not a charity case, not a disappointment, not a backup plan. He paused. And I want Blake to understand his success has been built on my money, not as a weapon against him, but as a fact he needs to accept. Done. All of it. I'll make sure of it. I'm not finished. Quinn pulled up a document on his computer. If I agree to keep my investment, and that's a big if, the terms change completely. No more silent partner. I want a board seat. Quarterly reports on how my money is used. Veto power on any purchase over $10 million. And Blake presents every major decision to me for approval. His father went very still. You want control of the company. I want the influence that comes with owning 40% of it, which is exactly what my $94 million represents in real terms. Quinn closed his laptop. Blake's been playing CEO with my money. If I keep funding Hayes Industries, I'm going to have real authority over how that money gets used. He'll never agree to that. Then the withdrawal stands. His father left 20 minutes later, looking completely shaken. Quinn went back to work, reviewing plans to expand Lumina Global into South America, approving a new partnership in Peru, and discussing a possible purchase of a sustainable packaging company. His little online shop had a very busy afternoon. At 4 o'clock, his phone rang. Blake. Quinn almost didn't pick up. Curiosity won. Fine, Blake said, his voice tight and controlled. I'll do it. The apology, the board seat, the oversight, all of it. Just don't pull the money. Put it in writing. Our lawyers are drafting it right now. You'll have it tomorrow. A pause. For what it's worth, you were right. About all of it. I was arrogant and dismissive, and I took your investment for granted. Is this the apology? No. This is me being honest. The apology happens in front of the board and the family, like you deserve. Another pause, longer this time. I looked up Lumina Global last night. Really looked at it. What you built, it's incredible, Quinn. I mean that. Thank you. I should have said that years ago. I should have asked about it. Learned about it. Treated you like the entrepreneur you are, instead of the failure I wanted you to be. His voice dropped lower. I think, maybe I needed you to be less successful than me. It made me feel better about inheriting everything, while you started from zero. It was the most honest thing Blake had said to him in 10 years. The board meets next Wednesday, Quinn said. I want the new terms approved then. And Blake, the stellar deal. It's actually a smart move. If you still want to go through with it, I'll approve the extra money. But we're doing real due diligence first, and I want full transparency on the plan. You'll really still fund it? I'm a businessman, Blake. I don't make investment decisions based on feelings. The deal makes sense. Quinn allowed himself a small smile. Besides, somebody needs to make sure you don't screw it up. Blake laughed, a real laugh, for the first time in years. Yeah, I guess they do. The following Wednesday, Quinn walked into the Hayes Industries boardroom, not as a silent observer this time, but as a full voting member. His nameplate now sat right next to Blake's, at the head of the table. The other board members watched him take his seat with wide, curious eyes. Robert called the meeting to order. Before regular business, I have an announcement. Some of you know that Hayes Industries has had the support of a silent investor for the past 5 years. Today, that changes. He gestured toward Quinn. I'd like to introduce Quinn Hayes, my son, as our newest board member and strategic partner. Thomas Reed spoke up, stunned. The silent investor was your son? Yes, Robert said. Quinn is the founder and CEO of Lumina Global, and he's been the main source of capital behind our recent growth. His voice was steady, but Quinn could see how much effort it took. It's time his role in this company was properly recognized. Blake stood up. The room went quiet. Before we continue, Blake said, I want to say something. Quinn, I owe you an apology. A public one. He looked around the table, then straight at his brother. I spent years mocking your success and treating you like you were less than me, while secretly building this company on your money. That was wrong. It was arrogant. Disrespectful. Honestly? It was stupid. He held Quinn's gaze. You're one of the most successful entrepreneurs I've ever known. What you built with Lumina Global is extraordinary. I should have recognized that years ago. I'm sorry. The board members exchanged quiet, surprised glances. In the observer section, Diane dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Thank you, Quinn said simply. The meeting moved forward. They reviewed the stellar components deal. Quinn had spent the whole week doing real research and had several ideas to improve the plan. Blake listened. Took notes. Used almost every suggestion without arguing once. When the meeting broke for lunch, Diane approached Quinn in the hallway. Quinn, your father told me everything. About Lumina Global. About what you built. About how we treated you. She took his hands, her eyes filling with tears. I'm so ashamed. I've been telling everyone you run a little craft shop, when you built something remarkable. Can you forgive me? I don't know yet, Mom, Quinn said. But this is a start. Over the next 3 months, everything shifted. Quinn attended weekly meetings at Hayes Industries, offering real input on major decisions. He and Blake slowly built something new between them, not quite friendship yet, but real respect. The kind that had never existed before. The stellar deal closed successfully. Quinn approved the extra money, now with proper oversight in place. At a family dinner 6 months after that explosive confrontation, Robert raised his glass. I want to make a toast, he said, to both my sons. Blake, whose leadership has pushed Hayes Industries toward incredible growth. And Quinn, whose vision and capital made that growth possible in the first place. He looked between them. I'm proud of you both. It was the first time in Quinn's life he'd heard those words said about him, out loud, in front of the whole family. Blake raised his own glass. And I want to say, for anyone who hasn't heard yet, that my little brother runs a company worth almost $1 billion. So maybe we should all stop asking him when he's going to get a real job. Everyone laughed. Diane beamed with pride. An aunt who had once teased Quinn about his career choice looked very embarrassed indeed. Later that night, as the party wound down, Blake pulled Quinn aside. The board wants to talk about something at the next meeting, Blake said. We've had an offer. A private investment firm wants to buy Hayes Industries. $280 million. That's a strong offer. It is. Blake paused. But here's the thing, if we sell, your $94 million investment becomes worth about $112 million, based on your share. Nice return. He looked at his brother seriously. But I wanted to ask you first, before we take it to a vote. Because it's not just my company anymore. It's ours. Quinn studied his brother. Still a little arrogant. Still competitive. But slowly, finally, learning what it actually meant to be a partner. Let's see the full proposal, Quinn said. Then we'll decide together. Blake nodded. Together. I like the sound of that. Driving home that night, Quinn thought back to that humiliating boardroom meeting all those months ago, the meeting that started everything. His quiet, unnoticed company had forced his family to finally see him clearly. His success had rewritten the whole story about who he was. And his willingness to walk away had taught everyone something they should have known all along. Respect isn't something you negotiate. Not with strangers. Not with business partners. And definitely not with family. 4 months later, the sale of Hayes Industries went through. Quinn's return on his investment came to $118 million, not bad for 5 years of being called a silent investor. But the real reward wasn't the money. It was watching Blake learn to value people for who they really were, not who they appeared to be. It was watching his father finally see both his sons as equals. It was hearing his mother tell her friends, with real, honest pride, that her younger son had built a billion-dollar company from absolutely nothing. Real success, Quinn realized, was never just about money. It was about knowing your own worth. And never accepting less respect than you deserved, even from family. Especially from family. His little online shop crossed the $1 billion mark the very next quarter, officially making it worth more than Hayes Industries had ever been. That same week, Blake sent him one last text. Congratulations, little brother. Guess you were a real businessman after all. Quinn smiled and typed back 3 simple words. Guess I was. Thanks for watching this story on Twisted Family Revenge Stories. If this hit you right in the heart, hit subscribe, because family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who finally learns to see you.